so our recipe for the Lemondrop Saison came from Northern Brewer. It is one of their all-grain kits. So I ordered it online. It arrived within a week, and I probably brewed a couple days after receiving the ingredients, so I can't imagine that the grains were too old. I did order them to be milled for me because I didn't have a grain mill at the time. So we got the ingredients. It was 8 pounds of German Pilsner malt, 1.5 pounds of Weirmann pale wheat malt, 1 pound of Weirmann bark Munich malt, and then like 1/3 pound of the Weirmann Cara Munich 1. Okay. In addition to the grains, it did have 1 pound of corn sugar to be added in the last 10 minutes of the boil. But essentially, we're looking at 9.5, 10.5, 11 pounds of grain approximately, with about 1 pound of corn sugar. So about 12 pounds of sugars going into it. Our hop schedule, we did 1/2 ounce of Magnum at 60 minutes in our 60-minute boil. We did 1 ounce of Lemondrop hops with 10 minutes to go, along with 1 pound of corn sugar, 10 minutes to go. And then finally, at flame out, we did the final ounce of Lemondrop. We did not do any dry hopping. We did use the Fermentis Seyfel BE 134. Its temperature range is claimed to be 64 to 82 degrees. We started at the lower threshold of that inside the house, in the closet over here, just at our room temperature because it was slightly cool during that time. And then I did move it to the Keezer, and I bumped it up towards the end to closer to 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the freezer with our Inkbird set to not only cool, but to use a little space heater in there. We, I guess technically open fermented it with just sanitized foil over the lid of the carboy, and it seemed to be fine. There was no odd, aroma coming out of it, and it was very active within the, the next day or so. As far as the duration of fermentation, you could probably turn that into a song on its own. We went about a week, and by the end of that week, we threw it into a keg, and it was just fine. A couple days of being in the keg at about 12 to 15 PSI, it was ready to drink, and it just got better and better throughout its kegging. Just before 6 o'clock this morning, got a couple things going on this afternoon, so I thought it'd be nice to brew before all the day begins. We've got our strike water going. We set it up last night. That's the first time doing that. So far, I would say I highly recommend it. I had all my strike water in the kettle. I had my sanitizer going. I've got all my equipment laid out and wrote out the recipe, and I think we're ready to rock. So we'll see how today goes. We're brewing a Lemondrop Saison, my first Saison I've ever brewed. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll wish for the best. And we're off to a bad start. Our water temp is way too low for the mash, and so I ran into the house, got a hot tea kettle of water, topped it off, and instead of hanging out at 146, got it up to about 150 for 1 hour. All right, we have our cooled wort down to just below 80 degrees because that is the upper end of our yeast's threshold. The yeast performs at 64 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've got our filter sanitized to our sanitized 6.5 gallon carboy, even though we only have pretty much exactly 5 gallons of wort. Sure smells good, smells sweet. So let's get this bad boy pouring. On our thermometer here, it shows about 78 degrees, so we are good. Let's turn this bad boy on. All right, and there's definitely a lot of sediment. I made the mistake of adding, it was only 1/2 ounce of our first hop addition without the hop spider on. So I took out the filter from the funnel because in just first 5 seconds it had already clogged. So we're just gonna throw it all in. We'll let the trube separate later on, but it sure looks light, smells good. Check the OG. I did check the temperature. It was about 78 degrees, so with the correction, we shall see. About 1.064, and I've got it at, oh, there we go. And I've got it at about 1.065. 1.065, so we're pretty much spot on, which was worrisome at first because all the paperwork said that the pre-boil gravity should have been 1.04. Let's check. Pre-boil gravity should have been 1.048. Based on my paperwork, I only had it at about 1.025, but then I don't think this took into consideration that we were going to add a pound of corn sugar at 10 minutes. So I think that helped us with our jump up. And so original gravity, 1.065. Awesome. So if we get it down to that, it should be the full 8% or so. So we'll see, looking good. All right, so about 2 hours ago, we changed from an airlock bubbler to the sanitized foil after listening to a couple podcasts, watching some videos. And seriously, in those past 2 hours, all of a sudden a krausen has kind of formed. It's kind of hard to see with the light, but it's about half of an inch tall, thick, whatever you want to call it. And it is audibly making noises. You can straight hear noises. So it's looking good. It's gonna be an active one. Let's go. All right, today's April 26th and we are racking to our keg. Got our auto siphon going. It's our first time kegging. So you can't even see in there, but shouldn't be any splashing. We'll see how it goes. All right, good morning. Hopefully this works. How we doing? Today is, all right, we're back. Finally gonna start talking about this beer, the Saison. We've had it in there for like a month now. It's May 16th at the time of last tasting. We threw about a dozen bottles together from the keg. So we're gonna try that out, give some of those away, hopefully if it maintains its carbonation. But I was overall pretty happy with the brew day, pretty happy with the overall product. I just don't enjoy the beer very much. It's got great color. It's got good flavor. Don't get me wrong, it's got good flavor. It's, I would say kind of peppery as far as my palate goes. But for me, it's just a bit too sweet. It came out at over 8% alcohol ABV. So I think it was closer to 8.5%, which it's summertime here already. And like yesterday it was like 95 degrees. So this is not something I want to be drinking during the early parts or middle of summer. But I'm hoping to find out, to figure out, hoping to see if, you know, once the weather changes a little bit, maybe in the fall, if those bottles of it do turn out nice. But it's very pretty beer. Definitely tastes like beer. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know what it reminds me of. But I don't really crave this beer. After making it, I probably drank myself maybe a gallon's worth of the 5-gallon batch, gave some to my neighbors. They all said it was good. They were probably lying to me. But it definitely tastes like beer. It tastes like what you would imagine old school beer would taste like, where you just kind of set it and forget it. Because that's basically what I did. I fermented it in the house at room temp, and the room temp in our house changed from like mid 60s, low 60s, all the way up to mid 70s. So I just kind of let it ride throughout that, put it into the fermentation chamber, and I think towards the end I kind of climbed up towards the low 80s, and then we threw it into the keg. We didn't do a pressure transfer or anything because it was in the glass carboy. So overall it turned out really nice, really nice. I love the color. I don't know, like a thick orange color. Came out very clear. I did not clarify it at all with gelatin or anything else. This is exactly how it came out without any fining agents. As far as the hops, it only had Lemondrop hops and I think a little bit of Magnum. based on the smell, you get a little bit of citrusy kind of on the nose. But other than that, it's just like what you would imagine beer would taste like. Not a light beer, what you would imagine like just a traditional beer would taste like anywhere around the world, which is kind of cool. But for me, it hits the back of the palate, too sugary, too sweet. Gives you a nasty hangover if you drink too much. What doesn't? But other than that, it's a fun beer. Probably won't make it again though. So, cool beer, fun times. Glad to be done with it. On to the next one.